Chapter 2981. With the help of Tang's 10,000 disciples, Tang Rongyi's work went very smoothly. In just one day, some people who thought they had powerful characters in the game posed a serious threat to the order of the city. But these people were all caught soon. Under the leadership of Tang Rongyi, it only took them 3 days to catch all the saboteurs. Tangwa had spent a lot of money to raise these disciples. These disciples were all very high level, much higher than many players. And they were equipped with high-level equipment, weapons, and mounts. Those mounts could not only run, but also fly. When these disciples surrounded those troublemakers, they were all dumbfounded. They thought it would be a chaotic world, and no one would be able to control them. In the future, only the strong would be respected. They had never thought that they would be locked up after just 2 days. Tang Rongyi's punishment for these troublemakers was to lock them up for a while and beat all the characters they had raised back to their original forms. Who asked them to cause trouble? So, in a few days, no one dared to cause trouble. If anyone dared to cause trouble, that guy called Tang Rongyi would send people to beat the characters they had raised back to their original forms, and even knock down all the equipment in their backpacks. Then, in 10 days, the city issued a temporary rule. At the same time, as Tangwa had expected, the school added a new course. The new course also became a very important one, which was to take the students to fight monsters and level up. No one knew whether this was a disaster or a fortune, but in just a few days, humans understood that they had to improve their own strength to ensure their own safety. In less than a month, the order of the human world had become one city managing one city, and the rules of the environment had been formed. The city where Tangwa lived was divided into the territory of the Graceful Union. The fastest and most stable place in the entire human race is the city where Tangwa lives. Some of the surrounding towns and counties also brought along small forces to join the Graceful Covenant faction. The whole human world was undergoing all kinds of changes. Of course, in some places, there were already disputes, injuries, and deaths. This was already unavoidable. Tang Rongyi had taken a lot of drugs on the first night. However, in order to adapt to his new ability, he didn't go all out. He decided to fight monsters first to improve his combat ability. After stabilizing the situation in the city and teaching Tang Kui everything, Tang Rongyi then started to fight monsters and level up. During the weekend, Tangwa went to the company to visit Tang Kui. Tang Kui was sitting in the office looking at her with a helpless expression. Dad brought some people from the company to fight monsters. We're taking turns here. The company has increased a lot of business, so we need to leave half of the people here to handle it while the other half go and improve their strength. Tang Kui rubbed his forehead. Clearly, he trained me to play with you. Big brother, only capable people can do more. Just leave things like playing with big sister to a child like me. Tang Ting looked at him with an expression that said, Big brother, just help daddy manage the company. You don't have to worry about elder sister. Many people will play with her. Tong, actually, no one will think that you are mute if you don't talk. Tang Kui glanced at Tang Tong. Children shouldn't interrupt when adults are talking. Wasn't it just to play with his little sister? What did a brat like him have to show off in front of him? Chapter 2982. Tangwa went to see Tang Kui every week during the holidays. And Tang Rongyi had already brought people to fight monsters everywhere. According to the current situation, the most powerful person should be Jun. With Jun by her side, Tangwa was more at ease. The only troublesome thing was Jun's identity, which was always a headache. At that time, the character's attributes had already been determined, and she couldn't change it. And Jun was the character that the original owner had carefully cultivated, so she couldn't change it. Such a headache could only be left to her dear father to solve it himself. The school was also going to be on holiday, so she decided to take the holiday to see how Su Wei was doing. She told Tang Kui about this, mainly because she wanted to see how Su Wei's magical artifact was doing. I can't leave for the time being, so I'll have to trouble you to take a look. Tang Kui thought for a moment and said, About that magical artifact, you can do as you see fit. I guess you should have your own plan. As long as you can get it in the end, it's fine. I'll take it back to the headquarters, and there will be people there to analyze it. Brother, don't worry. When I'm done, I'll bring it back to you. She just wanted to see if Su Wei was still using the divine artifact. If not, she would secretly take it away and give it to Tang Kuei. If Sue was still using it for something, she didn't know if she would be counterattacked by it in the end. No matter whether it would counterattack or not, she would expose the fact that Sue was a thief. Tangwa brought Sugu and Little Turtle with her. The others all stayed. Even Tang Tong was thrown to Tang Kuei. Now Tang Kuei was very busy, so it was natural for a younger brother to help his older brother. Hurry up, don't dawdle there. Have you forgotten the task your sister gave you before? Tang Kuei smiled as if he had taken revenge. Tang Tong was unhappy, his face twisted, and then said, I know, brother. Don't be too proud. Sister is worried about you, so she asked me to come and help you. If you weren't so busy, she would definitely take me to practice. Haha, do you think that's possible? Tang Kuei unceremoniously activated his taunting skill. Didn't you notice that the girl only brought Sugu with her? We didn't bring Big Orange Cat and Little White Wong over. Tang Tong was so angry that he stomped his feet. In the end, he was picked up by Tang Kuei to work. He did not feel that he was enslaving a child. This little brat's strength stood at the peak, and there were not many who could beat him. While Tangwa was taking Sugu to gain experience, Tang Rongi was also taking some people to kill monsters and level up. It had been a few months, and Jun had been by his side every day. It could be said that they had encountered many dangers. At present, conflicts often broke out between the various forces over the matter of snatching resources and slaughtering. There were many casualties, and order could no longer be restored. This world was already revered by martial arts. Fortunately, Jun's existence was always able to help them turn danger into safety. For example, the employees in his company were quite strong now. After a big kill, Tang Rongi rarely chatted with Jun. As they chatted, they talked about the story of him and Jun in his heart. We grew up together, and I still can't forget her. Maybe in the future, she will always be in my heart. Chapter 2983. And you should know why you are here, right? Tang Rongi looked at Jun's eyes. Those plots in your mind were written by the game company based on the experience of Xiao Gua and me. In fact, we have nothing to do with each other. Jun just looked at Tang Rongi without speaking. I mean, you are a very free person. It doesn't have to be me. I have someone else in my heart. You are delaying yourself. Tang Rongi had wanted to say these words for a long time. Before, he was eager to improve the overall strength, so he didn't have time to talk about these. Now it was a good opportunity. Everyone's strength had been improved. He could finally have a good talk with Jun. You can still treat Xiaogua as your daughter, and we can also be family. But you don't have to act according to those fabricated plots. You are so powerful, so you have a good choice. Of course, it's your business whether you choose others or not. I don't care about it. The reason I'm saying all this today is to make my attitude clear. I don't want to be vague and delay you. Jun blinked and said, I see. There was no loss or anger on her face, which made Tang Rongi confused. You said it, it's my business whether I choose others or not. It's your business whether you have someone in your heart or not. Jun continued, so, it's also my business whether I care about you or not. I just want to like you, so it's even more my business. Tang Rongi, you do your thing. I like mine. I don't want to accept anyone. Jun, like whoever I want. It's none of your business. Tang Rongi was stunned. Her character was really similar to Jun at that time. Soon, he felt a little helpless. After all, it seemed to be useless. It's almost time to rest. Let's go and kill monsters. If I remember correctly, there should be a big one in the lake ahead. If we kill it, we will get a lot of experience. At that time, our overall strength can be improved a lot. Seeing Jun was so straightforward, Tang Rongi didn't say anything. Let it be for the time being. If Jun really met someone she liked in the future, she might change her mind. Brother Min, your master doesn't seem to like sister Jun. There were two people sitting on a rock. They were Hu Min and Ling Shi. Ling Shi hugged Hu Min's arm and leaned her head on his shoulder. Hu Min pinched Ling Shi's face and said, because the Jun in your heart is not the Jun in your heart. Although the two of them look the same, they are still two different people. Mr. made it clear because he was afraid that it would be unfair to Jun. However, Jun didn't seem to be listening. Sister Jun is always like this. If Brother Min doesn't like me, I will like you too. Hu Min quickly said, I like you very much. It was true. He had never liked anyone before, not even a crush. Ever since he was young, he had been a student of the elite class and only focused on studying. He was not young anymore, so he did not have a wife yet. Ling Shi's appearance had fulfilled all of his fantasies. This was the wife that he had raised himself. He liked her very much. At this time, Tanghua and Su Gu had arrived at Su Wei's town. Anyhow, it was the female lead's town. This place had been integrated into the game and had a lot of resources. It was possible that those flowers and plants on the ground were all useful things. More importantly, there were a lot of monsters here. Chapter 2984. These monsters that provided experience points all had one property. That was, after being killed, once the cooldown time was over, new monsters would appear in the original range. But after the refresh, the monsters might randomly appear anywhere in the original range. In this assimilated world, many rules were still the same as in the game. As for the game company that designed this game, it was smashed a few months ago. If Tang Rongi hadn't brought people there might have been a lot of casualties just like in the plot, because there were still many people who were very scared of all these changes, including some who had game characters. So they vented all their anger on the game company, which almost made the game company follow the path in the plot. Tang Rongi's appearance made the people of the game company cry tears of joy. Hearing that Tang Rongi was going to take them all into his company, these people quickly nodded. Even the boss of the game company couldn't wait to join the gracious faction as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, the people who could save them turned out to be the father and daughter who were ranked first and second in the whole server. There were two reasons why Tang Rongi saved the game company. First, he had benefited from the game of the game company, and they were all people he knew, so he definitely had to come over to help. Because he brought a lot of people this time, he arrived in time and saved everyone. The boss of the game company was also not bitten to death by the mutated animals. Second, Tang Rongi thought that the people of the game company were all talents. They were the core of the game design. Maybe through them, he could fully understand the current world. Tanghua agreed with all these. With Tang Rongi's help, she didn't need to care about anything. She just took Su Gu out to play all day. Tanghua and Su Gu disguised themselves as a young couple who went out to gain experience. She later found out that Little Tortoise really moved quite fast. Today, it was raining heavily. Many roads could be sailed by boat. Tanghua knew there were a lot of monsters on the map of this county, so she planned to go there and kill them. But the road was not easy to walk on. There was water everywhere. Some people floated there by airboat, and of course, some rode there by horse. As for the little turtle, it turned into a big turtle. Tanghua and Su Gu sat on the turtle shell. There was still a lot of empty space around them. Little Tortoise swam slowly in the water. Tanghua leaned on Su Gu, eating and chatting with him. When the surrounding people saw Tanghua and Su Gu going out like young ladies and young masters with no one around to protect them, different looks appeared in their eyes. Those who were not in the mood revealed envious gazes. Those who had other thoughts were tempted by the enlarged little turtle under Tanghua's buttocks. During this season, there is a lot of flooding in this county. If you are not careful, the roads will be flooded. Especially in the place where they were going to fight monsters, there were also mountains and rivers. If they had this tortoise, it would be much easier to travel. At this time, it was normal to snatch things. Those who weren't so cruel would just leave after snatching the items. The more ruthless ones would snatch their items and beat them back to their original form. Furthermore, they would knock out all the items in their backpack. If he wanted to be even crueler, he would have killed the person directly. Tanghua and Su Gu sat on Little Tortoise's back. They had already swam to a slightly dry place. Little Tortoise could also walk on land, so they didn't get down. At this time, a person next to them called out to Tanghua, "Little beauty, can I borrow your turtle for a while? I still have some friends on the other side. I came in a hurry and didn't prepare a yacht. Can you ask your turtle to help them bring it over? I came over to test the depth of the water. I don't think it's easy for them to come over, mainly because there are two girls. It's not convenient for them to come over directly like me." The person who spoke was about 17 years old. It was a boy who was quite handsome. However, as he said, his body was wet. He should have come over from the water. Perhaps afraid that Tangwa would not agree, the boy took out some things. This is the service fee for you. Little beauty, sorry to trouble you. Tangwa saw that the other party's attitude was not bad, so she agreed. After letting Little Tortoise take them back, the boy was very happy. He quickly introduced himself, saying that he was from a certain high school. He came today because he heard that there was a big refresh here. He wanted to fight a few times and get some things. Wei, I met two kind friends. Before they could bring them to a cleaner place, Tangwa heard the boys shout. She subconsciously looked in that direction and saw two girls. One of them was very ordinary looking and had a puppy in her arms. The other was very beautiful and was wiping her shoes with paper. Chapter 2985. Yi Chengjiang's voice attracted the attention of the girl who was wiping her shoes. She raised her head and saw Yi Chengjiang sitting on the back of a huge tortoise. A smile appeared in her eyes. Yi Chengjiang was the boy who asked Tangwa for help with his wet clothes after dripping in the water. Yi Chengjiang. The beautiful girl was Su Wei. She looked at Tangwa's little tortoise, and her eyes lit up. That's great. Now we don't have to drip in the water anymore. There would be a big event there today. Anyone who went there would gain experience points. Maybe they could even get something. Su Wei didn't care about those things. After the assimilation of the world, the so-called artifact USB drive had become a wristwatch. It was now waterproof on her wrist. Not only that, the wristwatch was more useful than before. It could automatically lock onto the surrounding targets, making it easier for her to steal things. Of course, she could only steal what she could steal with her current ability. That was why she didn't care about the dropped items. However, she wanted to gain experience points. After all, she needed to improve her strength. The way to do so was either to take pills or to kill monsters. She would gain the most experience points by killing monsters. Of course, she wanted to come and slash a few times. At this time, everyone was working hard to improve their strength and obtain some resources, especially pills and the like. They would be consumed very quickly to improve their strength. Because this was a world that had been assimilated by the game, there was no so-called bottleneck at all. One only needed to take pills, and they would be able to level up immediately. There were no side effects at all. In order to avoid being robbed, most people took the pills and immediately leveled up. Not only could it prevent theft, but other people would also not dare to provoke them when they saw their strength increase. Therefore, Su Wei could steal many items, but she could rarely steal items that could improve strength such as pills. When she looked at Tangwa and Su Gu, she felt the heat from the wristwatch. No, it should be scalding. Every time the wristwatch heated up, it meant that there were people around her who had good things in their backpacks. Now her wristwatch was so hot that it hurt. She almost cried out. It was obvious that these two people must have very good things on them. Now it was different from the game. No matter how high a person's cultivation was, she could look at their backpacks. Whether or not they could steal the item depended on the ability of the wristwatch. If she couldn't steal it, it meant that the wristwatch wasn't powerful enough. She had to improve her strength. The upgrade of the wristwatch's ability was almost the same as before. As long as she used the stolen item skillfully, it would increase the wristwatch's experience. The higher the EXP, the stronger its ability, and the higher the level of items it could steal. However, when it came to medicinal pills, it could be stolen at will. After all, the size of the pill was small and did not consume too much energy. Equipment and weapons were all big items. Wouldn't it take a lot of effort to steal them secretly? In the past few months, she had secretly stolen many things and put them into her backpack. After stealing these things, they were basically ordinary and looked like common items. No one noticed anything wrong with them, so she was very relieved. Now that their wristwatches were so hot, there must be something good on them. It would be even better if they had pills that could increase their strength. Tangwa could already feel Su Wei's burning gaze on her. Su Wei kept her other hand in her pocket and did not take it out at all. Chapter 2986. Tangwa had already asked Su Wei and a few others to come up. Apart from Xie Xiaojun, who was carrying the puppy, there were a few other boys. Although there were already 10 of them, it was more than enough for them to sit on Little Tortoise's back. Not only that, Little Tortoise could also become bigger. After all, its cultivation level was very high. Under the envy of many people, Little Tortoise swam in the same direction as before. At this moment, the voices of a few people clearly entered Tangwa's ears. She hugged Suji's arm and looked back. Sugu also looked back and asked her how she was doing. Tangwa pinched his arm and motioned for him to look at the group of red-haired teenagers. Yes, these red-haired teenagers were all teenagers. After all, it had been so long since the assimilation of the worlds. Under Nangong Jin's leadership, their strength had increased a lot. As a result, they looked better. At least, they were not as miserable as before. Do you know them? Tangwa asked Sugu in a very low voice. Her voice was so low that only Sugu could hear it. Sugu nodded slightly to show that he understood. He remembered that Tangwa had asked him to assassinate a lot of red-haired teenagers. Sugu thought for a moment and asked in a low voice, "Do you still want to beat them up? Their cultivation levels have increased a lot." If she wanted to beat them up, he was willing to do so. No. Tangwa shook her head. She beat up this group of red-haired teenagers because Su-wei stole things to increase their strength. When Su-wei was in this world, they would be her support. Her goal was to make Su-wei lose the male lead. Now, it seemed that it was quite successful. Although these red-haired teenagers were still loyal to Su-wei, Su-wei probably did not want to see them anymore. Otherwise, Su-wei would not be on Little Tortoise's back. The group of red-haired teenagers pushed a bamboo raft into the water. They probably wanted to help Su-wei cross over. Because they were standing in the water with empty bamboo rafts in their hands, they did not go up. Instead, they stared blankly at Su-wei's position. Wei doesn't seem to need these anymore. One of the youths said dejectedly. He looked at the bamboo raft that had been stuck firmly in front of him and wasted a lot of their time. His eyes were red as he looked towards Su-wei. Su-wei heard them and turned her head to take a look. Then, she turned her head away and did not look at them. I already told them not to follow me. They are free to cultivate on their own, but they refused to listen. Su-wei couldn't help but say. After all, there were so many people around. She couldn't say that she hated those people. Now that she could control her emotions a little, she wasn't as agitated as before. Back then, I played that game, but I didn't expect the system to assign me characters that I didn't like. More than 10 of them were like that, so I gave up. Originally, I had nothing to do with them, but in the end, they still wanted to follow me. There was nothing I could do. Su-wei looked troubled. Moreover, I can't explain the relationship I chose before. So, I still think it's better to let them regain their freedom. There's no need for them to follow me. Now that she had a divine artifact, she could steal equipment and kill monsters to increase her cultivation. She didn't need these people's help at all. Actually, she was very annoyed when she saw them. They insisted on following her, like ghosts that wouldn't leave. I can understand, Yichengjiang said. Wei originally treated them as game characters and even abandoned the game. Maybe it's the game world settings that made them so persistent. Wei's decisive decision to let them leave is very good. It will save you trouble in the future. Chapter 2987. The others nodded as well. They didn't think that Su-wei created her character as a boyfriend or anything. After all, many girls created their characters like that. Su-wei's luck wasn't good. Every time she was assigned bad attributes, it was normal for her to abandon the game. Su-wei's voice wasn't soft. The group of red-haired youth also heard it. They stared at Su-wei's position, hoping that she would look back, but Su-wei didn't. Tangwa looked back at them and shook her head lightly. He didn't know if the characters in the game would become more independent because of certain things that happened in the future. These red-haired youths were all male leads. If they worked hard to level up and cultivate, they definitely wouldn't be bad in the future. Of course, many times Su-wei helped them level up, she would still deal with them. At the very least, she had to beat them back to their original state. No matter how pitiful they were, she couldn't let them go. Now that Su-wei didn't want them anymore, she didn't need to do anything to them. Later, the group of red-haired youths still got on the bamboo raft and rowed over. However, they didn't dare to get close to Su-wei. They stayed far away, as if deliberately avoiding close contact with Su-wei. Su-wei wasn't in the mood to think about the red-haired youths. She revealed a tired expression and leaned on Yichengjiang. She even said, "Yichengjiang, I'm a bit sleepy. I'll lean on you and sleep for a while." Okay. Yichengjiang couldn't wait. This was the person he had always had a crush on. He didn't expect the world to change, and he could finally be closer to her. Even if the two of them didn't have a further relationship, she was at least willing to lean on him. Sue looked very sleepy, but in reality, she just wanted to close her eyes and check Tanghua and Suji's backpacks. When she used the watch, Sugu felt some kind of energy invading the backpack. Tanghua noticed Suji's expression. She pinched his arm and shook her head. She couldn't help but laugh. This guy secretly cheated for her again. She remembered that no matter how high the level of a person was, the watch wouldn't be able to find out if it was peeking into the backpack. Unless the wristwatch had stolen something that it couldn't obtain with its current energy, then it might be discovered. Even if they were discovered, no one would suspect Sue. It's her. Sugu wrote 2 words on Tangwa's palm, and at the same time, his eyes fell on Sue. He could feel that the person who was peeking at his backpack was Sue. Dear host, according to your instructions, I didn't stop Sue from peeking at your backpack. She has probably seen your backpacks by now and is shocked by what she saw. After all, there were so many things in the host's backpack that Sue would definitely be dazzled. Sue was really shocked. She had seen so many people's backpacks, but she had never seen a backpack with so much space, so many small compartments, and a backpack full. Especially the items inside. They were so dazzling that she almost fainted. She searched quickly and found countless medicinal pills inside. The number of each type of pill was 999. She had been troubled by the fact that there were so many people waiting to kill monsters every day. She didn't have enough experience points to level up. Now that she saw so many pills, she didn't hesitate and hurriedly searched for what she needed. If possible, she really wanted to take everything in the backpack into her own backpack. Chapter 2988. Unfortunately, her backpack was very small. It was still beneficial to the game she played. Nearly 20 small backpacks were combined, and the things inside were still there. Otherwise, many things couldn't be done. After Sue took a fancy to some medicinal pills, she planned to let the wristwatch steal them. Tanghua had already covered the backpack with her spiritual power. She clasped Suji's palm and whispered, "Just let her see." Sugu understood instantly. Just let her see. No matter how long she looked, it wasn't hers. Just looking was enough. It was impossible to take it away. Sugu also covered the backpack with his spiritual power. Therefore, no matter how the wristwatch used its energy, there was no way to steal a single pill, let alone steal a lot of medicinal pills. This made Sue very angry. After trying more than 20 times, the energy of the wristwatch was almost exhausted. She had to quit. Controlling the wristwatch to steal things was actually very energy-consuming. So now she seemed a little tired. She had done this kind of thing many times, but this was the first time she couldn't succeed. She didn't get a single medicinal pill. She didn't open her eyes. She simply closed her eyes and rested. At this moment, she was really tired. Tanghua certainly wouldn't let Sue steal successfully. The medicinal pills in her backpack were all good things. Even one pill could help people improve a lot. Besides, those equipment, none of them were bad things. What she wanted to do now was to wait for Sue to steal more things. Then she would remove the camouflage on those equipment and let everyone know that she was a thief. Stealing things had to be aware of being exposed. Who asked Sue to provoke her here? System, yes. Who asked Sue to provoke the host? If she bullied the host, wouldn't she be bullied by the host? It was impossible to be merciful. The host's ability to hold a grudge had not fallen behind at all. Sugu felt Tanghua's happiness and seemed to understand why. He had already guessed that Sue should be the mysterious person from before. Wife did not allow Sue to succeed in stealing. Could it be that when Sue grew up in the future, she might become a very bad person? If that was the case, Sue really couldn't succeed. His wife wanted him to beat those red-haired youths back to their original forms, just so that Sue would think that they were all trash. In the future, those youths would not be used by Sue. If that wasn't the case, why didn't his wife allow him to beat up those youths this time? Now that those red-haired youths had been abandoned by Sue, they naturally could not help Sue in her evil deeds. All of a sudden, Tanghua became even more perfect in Suji's eyes. His wife was truly an extremely intelligent person who knew the secrets of heaven. Tangwa noticed that something was wrong with Su Ji's eyes. She looked up at him and asked, "What's wrong?" "My wife is very beautiful." Su Ji's address of Tangwa made the people on Little Turtle's back understand that Su Gu should be a game character raised by Tangwa. It seemed that he was also a husband character. Su Wei was not asleep. She also heard it and felt a little jealous in her heart. Other people's pets were all so beautiful. Why was it that her own pet was so ugly? After flowing past the place where there was water, Tangwa did not let Yi Chengjiang and the others go down. She came here to look for Su Wei. Since she had found her, she might as well go and fight with her. Su Wei would definitely not do anything to her, so she would definitely do something to others. Chapter 2989. An hour later, there were a few more people on Little Tortoise's back. Tangwa had also observed that Little Tortoise's back was wide enough for more people. It would be more lively with more people. There was still some time before it refreshed, so Tangwa picked up a lot of people along the way. Among these people, not all of them had good personalities. Some of them didn't have good personalities and looked very fierce. Anyway, she and Su Ji's cultivation were high, so they weren't afraid of what the other party would do. Because of this, Little Tortoise became a little bigger and could already accommodate 50 people on its back. Seeing this, Tangwa felt that it was about time. Most of these people were from small groups, but there were also a few individuals who formed temporary groups. She guessed that Su Wei would probably secretly scan these people's backpacks and steal their things. These people were eager to level up, so they wouldn't put pills in their backpacks. Most of them would take it and immediately level up and increase their strength. If that was the case, then Su Wei must have stolen some equipment. In her hands, the equipment would be disguised as ordinary items. When she took it out and used it to increase her proficiency, no one would suspect anything. There were many mountains in the county, and there was a big map integrated into it. So many places were more dangerous, especially the roads, which were especially difficult to walk on. They were always afraid of something, like crossing the sea, crossing the river, and so on. Tangwa didn't reject these people. When someone even suggested that everyone go on an adventure and kill the surrounding monsters, many people agreed. Tangwa hesitated for a moment, but also agreed. "System. Host, don't you look like you're fishing?" Tangwa replied, "It doesn't count. I didn't put the bait, right? They put the bait themselves. Don't tell me they have to stop Su Wei from stealing things." System. No, I used the wrong words. The host was just passing by and accidentally discovered the truth of some things. Then, listening to the system's blabbering, they refreshed. Every time they refreshed, the surrounding monsters would also refresh, but the places where they appeared were different. Moreover, they found that the more they fought, the higher the level of these monsters. This seemed to be something that was specially provided for them to level up. This time, Tangwa and the others encountered a big one. It was as big as a room and looked particularly intimidating from afar. If he was alone, he definitely wouldn't be able to kill him. If he continued to fight, he would probably be slapped to death. Fortunately, the humans could stay away. After all, the big ones wouldn't chase after them. Tangwa and Su Gu did not show too much strength. They just casually slashed a few times and did not fight as hard as the others. Su Wei looked like she was going all out. With Yi Chengjiang protecting her from the side, she was in a very good position to deal damage. The rest of the players kept attacking the boss. Since there was no health bar left, they didn't know when they would be able to kill the boss. They could only keep attacking. Basically, after 3 hours of slashing, Dada suddenly burst out with a burst of golden light, and his entire body disappeared. Everyone was given a corresponding amount of experience points. Following that, many items appeared in the original location. What they could obtain would depend on their own abilities. After all, he just kept it in his backpack. Those who had never played games naturally didn't have backpacks. It was more awkward for them. Although Su Wei was eager to get more items, she, Yi Chengjiang, and the others weren't strong enough. They couldn't win against the other party. Tangwa and Su Gu picked up the items that dropped in front of them. They didn't go over to snatch them. In Su Wei's eyes, these two rich people didn't need it at all. They were probably rich kids who came out to play. Wei. At this moment, A red-haired young man walked in front of Su Wei and handed a shining high-quality weapon to Su Wei with a sincere expression. Boss got this. As he spoke, he turned around to look at Nangong Jin. Nangong Jin had now become a young man in his 20s. His clothes were tattered, and there were many bloodstains on his body. He must have been injured when he tried to snatch this weapon. Su Wei frowned and turned to leave. She didn't care at all. Although she also coveted that superior weapon, she did not want it. She just didn't want what this group of people gave her. Chapter 2990. Even without turning her head, Su Wei could feel the 20 red-haired men staring at her without blinking. They had nothing to do with her in the first place, but they insisted on sticking to her. Even if they didn't look so bad now, their original forms still left a deep impression on her. She didn't dare to mix with these unlucky people, in case she got dragged down by them. She might look good now, but she wouldn't be able to accept it if she returned to her original form. Besides, in this world, she had a magical weapon. It wasn't as if she couldn't survive. Did she have to accept all the bad guys? Boss, Wei Wei didn't want it. The red-haired young man with the superior weapon walked back to Nangong Jin's side, still holding the knife tightly. Even if Su Wei rejected them, he was just sad that Su Wei didn't accept their kindness. He didn't resent Su Wei. Got it. Nangong Jin swallowed a pill to heal his injuries. Next time, I'll snatch a better weapon. Maybe Su Wei will like it. Tanghua and Su Gu weren't far from the group of red-haired young men, so they heard Nangong Jin's words clearly. He looked like a wise person, but because of their relationship with Su Wei, they couldn't resent Su Wei at all. She stared at Nangong Jin and the others for a while. Nangong Jin and the red-haired young men noticed her and nodded at her. Because Tanghua had Little Tortoise, Su Wei had taken advantage of her, so they were very grateful to her. No matter how good the bamboo raft was, it couldn't be compared to Little Tortoise's shell. That huge tortoise was stable when it was in the water. It could even pull dozens of people at a time. Wei Wei would definitely be better sitting on the tortoise shell than the bamboo raft. Why are you so insistent on following Su Wei? Tanghua couldn't help but ask. Nangong Jin replied, There's no reason. We just want to protect her. She doesn't seem to need you. We just want to protect her. Nangong Jin repeated this sentence. As for whether Su Wei needed them or not, they did not consider so much for the time being. The world had become very dangerous. If they really left Su Wei alone and did not follow her, they would not be at ease. After killing the boss, everyone was still chatting and laughing. Then, they started snatching the loot. Who cared if they knew each other? They just quickly stuffed the good stuff into their own bags. Tanghua didn't ask any more questions because they had to go somewhere else to kill monsters. The road was not easy to walk on, and after the heavy rain, there was water everywhere. Therefore, those who knew her were now sitting on Little Tortoise's shell, feeling very lucky. Because of this, many people even took the initiative to give her some things, thinking that this was her reward. After all, they were riding on Little Turtle's back, so it was only right that they be rewarded. There were also some people who were unwilling to give up, but since everyone had given up, they had no choice but to give up. Su Wei's share of natural history was given to her by Yi Chengjiang. No matter what happened, Yi Chengjiang would stand in front of Su Wei. Su Wei didn't think of telling Yi Chengjiang about the stolen equipment. Yi Chengjiang was not a character in the game. If he found out that there was something wrong with the equipment, wouldn't her trump card be exposed? If she found something good outside, she didn't mind giving it to Yi Chengjiang. Now that they were considered a team, she had to give Yi Chengjiang a better impression of her. She wasn't strong enough to not need the strength of a team member. Chapter 2991. Su Wei was still coveting Tanghua's backpack. She tried again later, but she still could not steal the items from her backpack. In the end, she gave up. Wasting so much energy to steal something that could not be stolen in the first place would slow down the speed at which she could increase her strength. There were many people on Little Turtle's back. Su Wei's target was these people. She sneaked into their backpacks and stole everything that caught her eye into her own backpack, especially the equipment that had been dropped after killing Big Turtle. She might not be able to steal one piece of top-grade equipment, but the rest were free for her to steal. Also, there were quite a lot of pills that had been dropped this time. Many people had saved some, especially some healing pills. She did not hold back and stole all of these things. Anyway, those people would not be able to catch her. Previously, they had relied on their own abilities to steal things. Now, they were relying on their own abilities too. It was just that their abilities were different. They could not blame her if they could not keep the good stuff. Perhaps it was because of Tanghua and Su Ji's backpacks that Su Wei was extremely coveting. Su Wei, who was usually more careful and only stole a few items a day, could not help but increase the number. With such a large number, of course, it attracted the attention of those who were missing things. When they reached the next location, they subconsciously checked their backpacks and suddenly realized that they were missing many items. This caused a commotion in the entire team. They had never lost anything in their backpacks before. After all, there were so many people who played games. What happened back then had happened a long time ago. It was just a trivial matter. Now that they had assimilated into the world, they did not associate it with what had happened in the past. You guys are missing too? Yes, I'm missing half of my pills. I'm missing a piece of top-grade equipment. I'm missing a weapon, a mid-grade one. I'm missing a weapon too. Me too. I'm missing 2 pieces of top-grade equipment at once. Why did Su Wei steal so many pieces of equipment? Of course, it was to increase her proficiency. Only by continuously using weapons and increasing her proficiency would the wristwatch become more powerful. Once she became stronger, she would be able to steal higher-level equipment. She still coveted Tanghua's and Su Ji's backpacks. She wondered if she could steal some pills from Tanghua's backpack if she worked hard to increase the power of the artifact. As for the equipment inside, she didn't even think about it. Those pieces of equipment were dazzling with a single glance. Most of them were top-notch limited editions. With her current strength, it was impossible for her to steal them. Something's not right. Why are so many of our weapons missing? A slightly fierce-looking man looked at Tanghua and said, "We've never had this kind of situation before. Have any of you experienced a situation where the items in your backpacks decreased before?" Everyone shook their heads. No, of course not. What do you think happened? When did we start losing things? It started here, and it hasn't been missing before. Then, the man's gaze was fixed on Tanghua. Little girl, our things were missing from your tortoise's back. Shouldn't you give us an explanation? There's no such coincidence in this world. Chapter 2992. The fierce man's words caused everyone to speculate. That's right, they weren't missing before. Why were they missing here? And why were they so lucky to be able to sit on the back of such a huge tortoise? The other party seemed easy to talk to. Thus, many people looked at Tanghua suspiciously. Su Gu held her hand, his eyes cold. If Tanghua hadn't stopped him, he would have beaten these people back to their original forms. Little girl, can you give us an explanation? Why are our things less here? This coincidence can't be explained. Little girl, do you know how difficult it was for us to obtain those things? Everyone obtained them under dangerous circumstances. Isn't it bad for you to take them for yourself so easily? That's right. Even if we're sitting on your tortoise, we've paid for it. This is an equivalent exchange. Yi Qingjiang didn't think that Tanghua and Su Gu were that kind of people. At this time, he helped to say, "Don't jump to conclusions. You said that it's Tanghua's fault. Did you see her do anything? She and Su Gu were far away from us. They couldn't touch us at all. How could they steal things? The things are all in the backpack." Before this, the world wasn't assimilated. There were situations in the game where things were missing for no reason. Yi Chengjiang had a character, but he had a male character. He was a friend. He didn't bring him out because his family needed protection. The male character's level was very high. He had also added some money into it. After the world was assimilated, he took drugs to increase his strength. When school was on holiday, they formed a team to kill monsters. Back then, in the game, there were players who reported that their items were missing for no reason. He knew about it, because he was one of them who had lost some equipment. However, this incident was left unsettled. Many people thought that it was a loophole in the game. Moreover, the game company gave them a certain amount of compensation at that time. No one pursued it. Although many people had lost things this time and it seemed very strange, they didn't think that Tanghua and Su Gu were that kind of people. Yi Chengjiang's words also received some approval. They were sitting on the back of the tortoise. It was not Tanghua who invited them. They were the ones who asked her for help. Now that there were fewer things, it was really not good to play the blame game. Su Wei's deskmate, the one holding the puppy, nodded. I also don't think Tanghua is that kind of person. Look at her big turtle. The person who can raise such a big turtle must have a good family background. Who knows, they might not even be interested in your stuff. Wei Wei, don't you think so? Xie Xiaozhen tilted her head and asked Su Wei, how could Tanghua steal from these people? Look at the sword in Su Ji's hand. I don't think he's simple. What Xie Xiaozhen didn't say was that it wasn't simple. She had some impression of that sword. When she was playing the game, there was a limited edition tycoon. What was a nouveau riche limited edition? It was that this kind of thing was specially prepared for the nouveau riche. However, it was a limited edition among the nouveau riche. In other words, the average nouveau riche couldn't get this kind of thing. However, most players couldn't even buy that kind of thing. They probably wouldn't even click on the interface. How could they know about this? Chapter 29:93. But we have less stuff. How do you explain that? Maybe there's a loophole in the backpack, Yi Chengjiang said. Didn't it appear in the game before? Some people knew about this. They fell silent. The fierce man from before was unwilling to give up. Anyway, don't let me catch the thief. Su Wei didn't feel anything at all. She didn't intend to speak up for Tanghua. She didn't think that Tanghua was weak with so many pieces of equipment. The other party didn't snatch it because they didn't like it. Wait a minute. Su Wei suddenly remembered something. She didn't feel good. In the backpack, there were countless pieces of equipment, weapons, pills, and all kinds of items. Especially those pieces of equipment. They were either top-notch or limited. Ordinary high-grade equipment wasn't available at all. There was also a huge turtle, which was the one she was sitting on. What did this mean? She remembered that the first time she raised a character called Nangong Jin, he was challenged by a turtle. At that time, the turtle became very, very big. It sat down and flattened Nangong Jin. Su Wei had already guessed that Tanghua was the graceful Guagua who chased after her. Tanghua also felt Su Wei's gaze. She looked up, but Su Wei quickly looked away. She clenched her fists. When did she start to be unlucky in the game? It was when she was chased by this graceful Guagua. Su Wei felt that Tanghua was a little innocent and felt quite apologetic. Now, she couldn't wait to pick up a knife and fight with the other party. If it wasn't for Tanghua, she might have already raised Nangong Jin to level 200. She didn't know how much more proficient the weapon would have increased, and the power of the wristwatch would definitely be stronger. She wouldn't have to worry about a few pills like now. Dear host, Su Wei guessed your identity. In fact, it was easy for Su Wei to guess her identity even if Tanghua didn't cover it up. Feeling Su Wei's hatred, Tanghua didn't mind. It was normal for Su Wei to hate her. In the game, she had beaten her up badly. It would have been fine if it was just a game, but considering the current situation, Su Wei probably hated her to death. So what if she hated her to death? Su Wei would probably hate her even more. At this time, Su Wei said, if you suspect Tanghua, why don't you go down directly? As long as you don't find anything after you go down, it means that it has nothing to do with Tanghua. If you didn't ask for anything less, then it would be more convincing. Yi Chengjiang pulled Su Wei aside and thought that this method was inappropriate. After all, who knew if the thief would appear again? However, Su Wei's words were approved by some people, and they decided to go down. The rest of the people thought that since they had already done this, the thief would definitely not steal from them. Therefore, they continued to sit on the back of the tortoise. After all, there weren't many such cheap means of transportation. Nangong Jin and the group of red-haired youths continued to follow behind from a distance. A few days had passed, and they had killed many monsters. Everyone's strength was steadily increasing. Since they didn't lose anything, everyone gradually let go of this matter. At this time, people lost something again. They glared at Tanghua angrily, as if they wanted her to explain. Su Wei stole a glance at Tanghua and turned her face away without saying anything. Tanghua had set her up so many times. It was nothing for her to set her up once. Chapter 2994. After all, she was the leader of the Graceful Covenant sect. She must be very strong and should be able to fight back. If she wasn't strong enough, she would at most be knocked down and lose some equipment. She had so many equipment in her backpack. Losing some equipment was nothing. Why? Did you lose your stuff again? The people who spoke were the ones who went down earlier. They stared at Tanghua and said, "This time, you explained that the people sitting on your tortoise's back lost some stuff, but the people who went down didn't lose anything at all. What does this mean?" "It means that there's something wrong with you." Tanghua smiled and said, "This doesn't prove that there's something wrong with me. It only proves that everyone sitting here is suspicious. Think about it carefully, am I right?" Everyone was stunned. Then, they thought about it and realized that it was true. Thinking about it again, they thought that Tanghua was less likely to steal things. What if it was a thief who stole something and framed it on Tanghua? Then he could get away scot-free. That's not necessarily true. Anyway, you won't be able to clear your name. Tanghua didn't plan to let Sue live as she wished. So, she casually took out a top-grade limited equipment from her backpack and said, "Do you think I'm lacking in your stuff?" Seeing that top-grade long sword, everyone subconsciously swallowed their saliva. Greed appeared in their eyes. At this moment, Tanghua put the sword away and took out another top-grade equipment. This time, it was a knife. "I have more of this kind of equipment." After showing it to everyone, she changed to another one. In less than a minute, she showed more than 20 pieces of top-grade equipment to everyone. The system wanted to facepalm. Was its host really capable of doing such a childish thing? It felt that it could use the word fishing now. The great host had shown so many good things to everyone. Wasn't this making people jealous and saying that they should come and snatch it so that they could beat the other party up? If you don't think the top-grade equipment is convincing, then I'll take out some limited edition equipment. These things are already out of production. You should understand, right? The world has been assimilated. The game company can't control this world. These things won't be produced anymore. Then, Tanghua showed the group of bumpkins in front of her what a top-tier limited edition equipment was. He took them out one by one, blinding their titanium alloy dog eyes. Sue didn't think that Tanghua would be so direct as to use her equipment to make people dizzy. She thought that people wouldn't show off their wealth. She had guessed wrongly. This second-generation rich kid was the kind of person who was unhappy and had to show it to everyone. Therefore, her plan had failed. Looking at those pieces of equipment, she was still very jealous. "Now, do you think I'm a thief? Is it possible for me to steal something?" Tanghua had a "I'm so awesome" look, which made the system speechless. This time, "Madam Host, are you going to play the role of a young lady who has no intelligence and only knows how to show off her wealth?" However, it was really successful. The surrounding people, including the ferocious man who had gone down earlier, had all dispelled their previous suspicions. But their eyes were burning with passion as they looked at Tanghua. Tanghua said again, "Don't look and don't be jealous. Don't even think about snatching it. I dare to take it out because I'm not afraid of being snatched. If you don't believe me, come and try." With that, she took out a sword and jumped down. She slashed the sword at the side, and a huge rock broke into pieces. "Do you want to snatch it? Then come over together." Her way of doing things made everyone give up. That's right. How could someone with this kind of equipment be weak? "Boss, that girl is so powerful." The red-haired boy looked envious. "Do you think Wei Wei will like us a little more if we become so powerful?" Nangong Jin said uncertainly, "I don't know." Moreover, they didn't know how long it would take for them to become so powerful. "Wow, Tanghua, so you're a tycoon. You must have spent a lot of money on that game, right?" Xie Xiaojun was shocked. "I'm so jealous. I did spend a lot, but now I feel that it was worth it." Xie Xiaojun nodded. Yes, it was worth it. Sue didn't feel good that she didn't manage to trick Tanghua. Yi Qingjiang was envious, but at the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief. Those people didn't dare to snatch Tanghua away. Now, they didn't even dare to offend her. For the rest of the journey, there were still people who lost things. Tanghua saw that Sue's backpack was getting more and more things, so she decided to trick her too. If she knew who the thief was, she would definitely beat him back to his original form. The young man sighed and was a little distressed. All right, don't be angry. You won't be pretty if you're angry. That thief stole every day. He would be caught sooner or later. Feather cloak is gone. I'll get it for you the next time we fight, SS. No. You were injured so badly when you tried to snatch that feather robe. Let's snatch something more substantial. The feather robe is also very practical and has a very strong defensive ability. The young man was a little annoyed. This feather robe is almost at the top level. If you wear it, it can block a lot of damage, and you won't get hurt easily. Next time, don't keep such a treasure. Just wear it. Okay. Chapter 2996. Every time they killed the big boss, this group of people would always lose something. Like Tangua, they didn't dare to openly hold the things in their hands, fearing that other powerful people would snatch them away. Actually, if they didn't want their things to be stolen, they could just leave Tangua's team. But no one had the thought of leaving. First of all, this team was very powerful. Everyone had never lost a boss fight. When other small teams came over, they didn't dare to come close. Also, the turtle was a very cheap means of transportation. Whether it was climbing mountains or crossing rivers, it was very fast, agile, and powerful. Sitting here, there was no need to be afraid of other conflicts. Lastly, Tangua's identity was the true nouveau riche of the graceful party. It also represented strength. No one would be willing to leave if they met such an existence. Most importantly, they thought that the thief stole their things and didn't dare to use them now. No one dared to use them either. No one left at the moment. When the time came, if anyone left, they could suspect that the thief stole it. In order to not arouse suspicion, no one moved. Sue understood the mentality of these people and finally let out a breath of resentment in her heart. Back when she was playing the game, she was tortured badly by that nouveau riche, Tangua. She clearly didn't provoke her, but she was forced to challenge her time and time again. Was she really a nouveau riche that allowed her to casually beat people? Every day, Sue changed the way she took out the weapons of the thieves and used them. Anyway, they had become ordinary people. Moreover, the magical equipment was more powerful now. She changed all the weapons, as long as they were of the same type, into the same appearance. The people outside didn't know that she could change many kinds of weapons in a day. Halfway through, they set up camp in the wilderness. Sue even put on better equipment. Because it was just ordinary low-level equipment in the game, not many people paid attention to it. Back in the game, such equipment could be seen everywhere. It was very common. Once, after killing the boss and snatching the items, they had a rule. When they were snatching things, they didn't care about anyone. After snatching, they put the things in their backpacks. That meant that the matter was over. If there were any grudges, they could settle it in private. In short, she didn't want to embarrass herself in front of the rich Tangua. Tangua felt that their days were too dull, which was not good for their future development, so she decided to give their lives some excitement. System. Oh no. Everyone treated their injuries, swallowed all kinds of medicinal pills, and got on the back of the tortoise. They didn't forget about Tangua either. They would give her a reward for sitting on the turtle's back. Although the nouveau riche didn't mind, this was their token of appreciation for him. Even the ferocious man from before was now looking at Tangua and Sugu with a face full of smiles, trying to please her. What a joke. Who wouldn't want to join the Graceful Covenant sect? This nouveau riche was the leader of the Graceful sect. If he was polite, he might be able to join. A wise man submits to circumstances. Don't think that just because the nouveau riche doesn't lack this, he doesn't mind them sitting on tortoises for nothing. Miss Tang, every time those big bosses are killed, their corpses disappear. However, after these small monsters are killed, their bodies will still remain. Vertex. Chapter 2997. We made some barbecued meat. Do you want to try it? I've tasted it. It's not poisonous and the meat is still very tender. I always have all kinds of seasonings in my bag. The person who spoke was the fierce man. His name was Susan. He held a plate of fresh meat and handed it to Tangua. Try it. Sugu glanced at Tangua. Does my wife want to eat it? Do you want me to barbecue it for you? Susan wasn't angry at Sugu. This was a big shot. What was there to be angry about? It was normal for the big shot to think that his barbecue was better. If Mr. Su doesn't think my barbecue is good, I still have a lot of fresh meat. The fire is still burning. When talking to a big shot, one had to be polite. This was the awareness of a follower. He didn't have any extravagant hopes. He felt that he would be very happy in this life if he could be this rich man's follower. If the big shot ate the meat, he could just drink the soup. If not, he could just eat the dregs of the soup. Susan's shamelessness made everyone on the tortoise's back vomit. He was so arrogant earlier, but now he was trying to curry favor with the big shot. Susan didn't mind being mocked. If he could become the big shot's follower, so what if the whole world mocked him? Only those who had crawled and rolled around at the bottom knew how difficult it was to live. Even if the world changed, they were still at the bottom. He just wanted to be able to stand a little higher so that he didn't have to worry about his next meal and might lose his life at any time. Let's eat this. I think it's not bad. Tanghua accepted Susan's barbecue. It wasn't because of anything else, but because this guy was tactful enough to know his place. For such a person, as long as he was strong enough, he would always be your follower. Sugu took the plate and cut the meat into small pieces. Let me try it first. He was afraid that it wouldn't taste good or that it wouldn't be good after eating it. Susan was still smiling. He didn't mind at all. Just try it. The big shot could cook it however he liked. As a follower, he didn't mind at all. This shouldn't be. After all, they were uncomfortable, right? It tastes good. Sugu tasted it and felt that there was nothing wrong with it. Then, he used a fork to fork a piece of meat and put it next to Tanghua's mouth. Wife, try it. It's quite delicious. Susan believed that this wave should have earned him quite a bit of goodwill. He turned around and went back to extinguish the fire. He jumped onto the tortoise's back and sat in his seat, not bothering the big shots as they enjoyed their food. That Susan is really shameless. Sue couldn't stand people like Susan. To be more exact, she looked down on him. Didn't you want to steal Tanghua's things? Now he's trying to curry favor again. Who knows what evil tricks he has up his sleeve? That's right, she was trying to drive a wedge between them. Without Tanghua, even if she stole a lot of things, she would not be happy. Previously, Tanghua had hit her game character for no reason. If it wasn't for that incident, she would definitely have a very powerful game character by her side now. Not the group of red-haired youths in tattered clothes behind her, who made her feel nauseous just looking at them. The past is the past. The present is the present. Isn't the world now a place where the strong prey on the weak? Someone said, I think Susan is quite flexible. Sue didn't say anything else. She held a high-quality weapon and waved it continuously. There were also many pieces of wood in her hands. This was all for the sake of proficiency. She needed to continuously carve wood. At this moment, Tanghua smiled at Sue's seat. Wei, come up. The red-haired young man saw Sue running quickly and thought that something had happened because the road here was relatively smooth. Nangong Jin was driving a truck. When he saw Sue running over, he hurriedly asked her to get in. Go after her. Don't let her get away. Also, spread the news. Post it on the internet. There are close to 20 of them, so we might not be able to beat them. Let's just forget about it. Besides, Miss Tang can't be alone, right? Susan rubbed his hands. To be honest, when I first played that game, I really admired Miss Tang. At the time, I thought that since Miss Tang has so many characters, it would be good if I could come over and be her follower. He wasn't lying. He was very envious, but he also knew that there was a huge gap between the two classes. He was different from many people. He didn't hate the rich at all. If he was that rich, he would be hated every day. The meat you barbecued is pretty good. If you don't care about those things, then come with us. Tanghua accepted Susan. As for Sue, she didn't have to worry about it for now. The people of this world weren't idiots. Sue had already been exposed. It wouldn't be easy to steal things. Chapter 3000. As for the group of red-haired youngsters, it was normal for them to side with Su Wei. How they would develop in the future was their own business. Yi Chengjiang, are you going to look for Su Wei? At this moment, Yi Chengjiang stood up. Xie Xiaojun came back to her senses and asked, "Why don't we go together? I want to ask her personally." After all, they had known each other since they were young. She felt that it was a little rash to give up on a friend just like that. What if there was really a misunderstanding? Okay. Although they knew that the chances of Su Wei not being a thief were zero, the two of them still wanted to ask her personally. They bade farewell to Tanghua and thanked her for the convenience she had given them recently. Then, they left together and headed in the direction where Su Wei disappeared. Let's just walk around then. Tanghua leaned on Su Ji's arm and took out her phone to call Tang Kuei. The call was picked up, and Tang Kuei's voice came from the other end. "Sister, you're finally willing to call me? I'll call Big Brother every day in the future." "Sister, there's still me." Tang Teng's noisy voice came from the other end of the phone. "Sister, Big Brother bullies me every day and enslaves me every day. He does everything for me. I'm still a child. It's too hard for me. Sister, help me persuade Big Brother not to do everything for a child." "Little brat, scram and get to work." Tang Kuei grabbed Tang Teng's collar and threw him to the side to deal with the documents. "It's not what you said, little brat. Capable people naturally have to do more work. My dear brother, you're so capable. Isn't it only right for you to do more work?" "No, I object." "Your objection is overruled." "Sister, what's the matter?" "Brother, how are the people from the gaming company adapting? I think we can upgrade one of their skills now." Tang Kuei raised his eyebrows slightly. "Su Wei was exposed by you?" "Yes, she has just been exposed. It won't be long before she's hunted down. After all, she has stolen from quite a number of people." Tang's casual words made Su San's heart jump. He seemed to have understood something. Could it be that the tycoon did not come here to play, but because he knew that there was something wrong with Su Wei and deliberately came here to investigate this matter and expose Su Wei? Su San's back was drenched in sweat. To think that he had thought that these were two fat sheep. If he really bumped into it, he would probably end up in the tiger's mouth. "Sister, what do you mean? Let's upgrade the security level of everyone's backpacks. Since Bro has accepted all the people from the gaming company, he must have considered this aspect, right? The world is so interesting now. I won't do nothing, right?" Tang Kuei laughed. "I really can't hide anything from you. I've already asked them to upgrade the backpack security technology. Currently, they were in the midst of testing. However, this was a technology that combined virtual reality and reality and was still being perfected. In at least 1 year, at most 1 year, this technology will mature and be ready for use. At most 1 year? That's fine. Let's do it. In any case, we just have to make sure that Su Wei can't steal anything." Su Wei was a thief. She could steal things from other people's backpacks without anyone noticing. This news was quickly spread on the internet. The group of people who could not catch Su Wei crazily uploaded Su Wei's photos online for everyone to see. It was to warn them to be careful when they met Su Wei, lest she stole anything. After Su Wei's school found out about this, they even invited Su Wei's parents. However, Su Wei had not returned for a long time. In the end, the school decided to expel Su Wei. Chapter 3001. Yi Chengjiang and Xie Xiaojun couldn't find Su Wei either. When school started, they had no choice but to return to school. During this time, Su Wei stayed with the group of red-haired youths. Even though she despised them, it was much safer for her to stay with them. She didn't dare to go to a place with a developed transportation network. Instead, she went to a remote place and quietly killed monsters to level up. When she became stronger, what could those people do to her? Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. The backpack security technology had been fully upgraded. Anyone who bought a product under the Tang Group's name would be able to upgrade the security of their backpack. Anyone who had a backpack would choose to buy it. Su Wei had been cultivating in the deep mountains. She felt that she was almost done. After 3 years, she was strong enough. This time, she promised not to run away when she saw anyone. As for the group of red-haired youths, They had all grown into handsome men. Even so, Su-wei still hated them. She couldn't bring herself to like the red-haired youths. "I'm leaving." Wei. Su-wei took out some equipment from her backpack and threw it aside. "This is your reward. We have nothing to do with each other in the future." Su-wei left without hesitation. The group of red-haired youths stared blankly at her back. They didn't chase after her. "Boss, what should we do?" Nangongjin said. Wei is already very strong. She doesn't need our protection for the time being. We should take turns to secretly follow her in case she gets into danger." After 3 years of slaying monsters in the deep mountains and forests, Su-wei felt that her strength should be pretty good. As for her school, she didn't care about it at all. She planned to go home and take a look. Now that she had achieved success in her cultivation, her parents wouldn't be like before. They wouldn't say that she was useless, right? No matter what, her parents would only say that she was bad and deny her in all sorts of ways. They were probably angry that she didn't go to school and suddenly disappeared. She didn't know if they were worried about her, but this was the current society. The weak were prey to the strong. Without strength, it was impossible to survive in this world. It had already been 3 years. Perhaps the outside world was already in chaos, right? 3 years ago, she was inadvertently exposed and found that her photos were all over the internet. The entire human race knew that she had the ability to steal things from other people's backpacks. At that time, she had planned to find a place to hide and cultivate. Otherwise, sooner or later, he would be beaten down by them. During this time, she received messages from Xie Xiaojun and Yi Chengjiang on their social media accounts, saying that they were looking for her. He asked her where she was and whether she had really stolen those things. Chapter 3002. Those people didn't seem to have anything good on them. Another reason why she came out this time was that the highest quality equipment in her backpack was superior. There were no top-grade equipment, and there were even limited edition ones. With her current strength, it was no longer enough. She was almost at the proficiency level, and the divine artifact wrist was already very powerful. This time, she should be able to steal what she wanted. After a long time, she arrived at a city that was slightly further away from the forest. Su-wei looked at the scene in front of her and was a little stunned. The city was still a city, but in the city, there were much fewer vehicles like cars. The roads were more spacious, and most people's vehicles had become mounts. In particular, there was a tag hanging on the neck of these mounts, which was similar to a car plate. Su-wei was stunned for a moment. This seemed to be a little different from the apocalypse she had imagined. Moreover, everything on the streets was very orderly. Even if one was riding a mount, it was just like a car a few years ago. They wouldn't run around carelessly. There were red lights and green lights, and the streets were very clean. She also realized that there were some very different toilets on the side of the street. Upon closer inspection, she realized that they were specially designed for mounts. Mounts had many advantages. They were environmentally friendly and could be big or small. The higher the level, the more flexible they were. If they really ran, they wouldn't be worse than a car. Moreover, there were some mounts that could run on land or fly in the sky. The city seemed to be even better. Su-wei breathed in the clear air. The air didn't seem as bad as 3 years ago. Was this still the chaotic world she had imagined? Su-wei was a little flustered. She decided to find a hotel to stay in first. She thought that she still had some good things in her hands. It shouldn't be a problem to use these things to stay in a hotel. Even if it didn't work, she could come out and find someone to exchange. Moreover, she didn't know if money had been eliminated. When she went to the front desk of the hotel, she realized that money had not been eliminated. The one who recognized it was still the big red head. Then, Su-wei turned around and went to find someone to exchange money. She asked around and found a shop that specialized in selling equipment. From the looks of the streets, there were more shops that she had never seen before. They were all about new things that were produced after the world had assimilated. For example, some monsters' meat, skin, tendons, and a series of new things. Therefore, the equipment she took out still sold for some money. Then, she went to the hotel and planned to check into a room. She still has her ID. It's just, "Miss, your ID card has expired." Su-wei was surprised. She took the ID card and looked at it. That's not right. My ID card has a 10-year expiration date. There are still several years before the expiration date. Miss, did you come from a remote place? The receptionist asked. Su Wei hurriedly nodded. The place I came from is indeed very remote. This is my first time here. That's probably because you're not well informed. Ever since the world was assimilated, there was a period of chaos. Later, due to the appearance of game characters, the country issued a regulation that required a new special identity card. The chip in your ID card is also different from before. As long as you remake your provincial ID card, it will input all your identity information. In the future, even if you don't have your ID card, you can still verify your identity through fingerprints, face, and pupil scans. Chapter 3003. Also, the country has issued rewards based on your strength. Once you reach a certain level, you can even go to the relevant departments to receive rewards. The first 1 or 2 years of assimilation were indeed chaotic. Many people had died because they were trying to snatch something from him. Fortunately, there was the graceful party in their country and the existence of the Tang Corporation. They had made great efforts to stabilize their country. It would not be like other countries, which were really chaotic and had all kinds of fights happening every day. Is it so troublesome? Su Wei was a little reluctant. Then, she asked, can I register my identity at any place? It's also possible in our county. Miss, you can just bring your own identity card there. If you have a game character with you, you can use your identity card to apply for a new identity card for the other party. Okay. It had been more than 3 years since that incident. Su Wei thought that most of those people had forgotten about her. Although it was not a chaotic time now, and the security seemed to be better than before, especially the patrols in the sky from time to time, and the patrols on mounts on the road from time to time, made her feel a little unfamiliar with this city. No matter what, she definitely needed an identity card to stay in a hotel, so she went to apply for one. When Su Wei finished applying for an identity card, she did not know that a certain special department had received news of Su Wei's appearance. Currently, they were rushing to this place to capture Su Wei. When Su Wei stole the backpack, if it were not for the new product developed by the Tang Corporation that upgraded the backpack security, they would have been on tenterhooks wherever they went. Tang Kuei was the first to know about this. At that time, he told Tanghua, sister, Su Wei has appeared. The people over there know about it and are rushing to that small county to capture Su Wei. Tanghua was not surprised. Su Wei would definitely appear. Will it be successful? What happened 3 years ago may not be enough evidence, Tang Kuei said with a smile. But will Su Wei be honest and not use that artifact? You're right. Tanghua no longer paid much attention to Su Wei's affairs. She had achieved her goal by exposing Su Wei. The rules of this world did not allow an existence like Su Wei to exist. There would always be someone to deal with her. What about the group of redheads? He didn't follow her. He probably wanted to, but Su Wei wouldn't let him. Perhaps he was secretly following Su Wei. Game characters are nurtured. Until now, our data has not found any evidence that they would give up on the person who nurtured them. Tanghua thought for a moment and asked, what punishment will Su Wei receive after we catch her? Of course, she'll be charged with theft. She'll be locked up and sentenced. If it's serious, her powers will be sealed. Currently, they had not yet figured out how to deprive humans of their powers, but they had already figured out how to seal their powers. In fact, the former was just that many people did not want it to appear. Tang Kuei understood what some people meant, so he did not continue to study in that direction. Now in the whole human world, this place was the safest. Originally, he and Tanghua did not want to interfere. Even if it developed into a world like the one in the plot, it was not a big deal. The other party's sincerity was enough. Everything he said moved them. Tang Rongyi also hoped that the previous order could be maintained. Chapter 3004. That's why Tang Kuei and Tanghua didn't hesitate to ask the Tang family to help them stabilize their territory. In fact, they were also hopeful about the current situation. The air was fresh, and the country was peaceful. It was better than they imagined. They enjoyed such a quiet and stable life. As for Tang Rongyi, he joined the army. This was beyond Tang's expectation. She didn't expect that Tang Rongyi had a dream of being a soldier. Now he led his soldiers to kill monsters and level up every day. Tang Rongyi joined the army. So did Jun. Jun was such a big shot. No place would refuse her, right? Tang Rongyi led the male soldiers while Jun led the female soldiers. Although Tang Rongyi had made his attitude clear, Jun also had her own ideas. She said that no one could control her. When she was capricious, no one could do anything but let her be. Bai Xiaowang followed Tang Rongyi. The big orange cat was assigned to Jun by Tanghua. As for Little Turtle, it stayed with her. The two friends were also entrusted with very important tasks. The two daughters she had raised were now receiving very important training. Tang Ting assigned them to Tang Kue. After all, it was very hard for Tang Kue to manage the company alone. Because of this, Tang Ting often cried and complained in front of Tanghua. As for the 10,000 disciples of the Graceful Covenant sect, they were still part of the sect. They were assigned to various places by Tang Kue, but some of them would be borrowed from time to time. Then the laziest ones were Tanghua and Su Gu. Su Gu only had eyes for Tanghua. He didn't want to go anywhere. Unless there was a shortage of manpower 2 years ago, and someone asked for help from Tanghua, and Tanghua agreed to help, Su Gu would follow her to solve the problem. Otherwise, no matter who came to him and cried for 3 days and 3 nights, it would be useless. This made everyone know that it was useless to kowtow in front of Su Gu. If they wanted Su Gu to help, they had to impress Tanghua first. Every time, it was Su Gu who made a move. Other than using her sword to intimidate those people, Tanghua had not shown her strength. This made everyone think that Miss Tanghua of the family was too delicate to cultivate. After all, they worshipped her like a jade bodhisattva, afraid that she would break and cause a disaster. Tanghua didn't care about other people's opinions. Although her sense of existence had been weakened, it wasn't bad to live such a quiet and ordinary life occasionally. Occasionally, when she was bored and felt that she could find some excitement, she would agree to help those people and go on some missions with Su Gu. Now, all areas within the country were under control. Every citizen had the right to enter and slay monsters. If it was a small monster, it would belong to whoever killed it. Chapter 3005. When she was handcuffed, she was still in a daze. She could feel that her powers were completely restricted, but she did not panic. It was only when those people took the wristwatch from her wrist that she panicked and screamed for them not to take it away from her. But no one paid any attention to her. Their faces were cold as if they could not hear her. Su Wei was quickly put on trial. The record of her theft was there, and there were countless witnesses. Moreover, Su Wei's willpower was not strong enough, so it did not take long for her to confess. Although there was no violence involved in the interrogation, just the mental pressure alone was not something that Su Wei could withstand. Tang Kue had applied for the wristwatch a long time ago. So, after the wristwatch was recorded, it was sent to Tang Kor's Research Institute for analysis. In the end, Su Wei was sentenced to 10 years in prison. But that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that there was another sentence. Her powers would be restricted for 50 years. In other words, even if she was released after 10 years, she would not be able to use her powers for another 40 years. On the day Su Wei was sentenced, Tanghua was there. When she saw that Su Wei had been sentenced, she felt happy. Su Gu could feel her happiness. He kissed the corner of her lips and whispered, "Honey, luckily you found out that she was a bad person." In Su Ji's mind, this was what he thought. System. Naive. Boss, Wei Wei has been sentenced to 10 years in prison. What should we do? Nangong Jin frowned and thought for a long time. Let's think of a way to take her out. Take her back to where she came from and hide there. After a discussion, the group of red-haired men decided to kidnap Su Wei on the way. They thought that with their abilities, they would be able to succeed. However, their car was stopped by a huge tortoise on the way. Tanghua was sitting on the tortoise's back. She smiled and said to them, "Although you have become very strong, you will not be able to save her with your strength. If you fail, you will still go to prison." Not only that, you will also aggravate her crime. She stole from someone else and violated the rules of this world, so she needs to be locked up. Nangong Jin said stubbornly, I just want to save Wei Wei. I don't care if I succeed or not, I want to try. She doesn't care about your life and death. Haven't you thought about living for yourself? Nangong Jin said, I don't know about this. I only know that if we save her, she will definitely be very sad without her freedom. Aren't you sad to be hated by her? Tangwa patted Little Tortoise. She was just passing by and happened to see this group of red-haired men. He casually said, even if you go, you won't succeed. In this world, even if you succeed, I will still think of a way to get someone to capture her. Nangong Jin pursed his lips and looked at Tangwa with an unfriendly gaze. When I first met her, she wanted to steal something from me. I found out, but she didn't succeed. Although you care about her very much, her actions are against the interests of others. She was not the only one in this world. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself and her for not being able to defeat me. Wife, are you really persuading them? When Sugu heard this, he felt that it did not sound like persuasion, but more like a show of strength. Chapter 3006. I'm just expressing my attitude to them. With me around, Su Wei will have to go to jail no matter what. So what if she had to go to jail for food? It wasn't like they wanted her life. Most likely, Su Wei still thought that they had gone too far. Sorry, she had really gone too far. Tangwa left on Little Tortoise. Nangong Jin and the rest of the red-haired men eventually chose to save Su Wei. The result was as Tangwa had expected. They failed and were completely wiped out. Not only were they sentenced, but their powers were also restrained. It wasn't as long as Su Wei's 50 years, and it wasn't long either. However, when they were caught, they clearly heard Su Wei's gloomy gaze as she stared at them and said, as expected, you're all trash. Useless things. Tangwa had asked them if they were sad. Of course, they were very sad now. In fact, every time they were rejected by Su Wei with disdain in her words, they felt sad in their hearts. How could they not be sad when they had always been hated and despised? They were no longer emotionless game characters. They were people with flesh and blood. The real world had given them flesh and blood, intelligence, life, and emotions. When they lost their mobility, Nangong Jin and the rest of the red-haired men didn't resist. It was as if they had already expected it. But when they heard Su Wei's words, they were even sadder. They buried their heads in silence. Because Nangong Jin and the rest were game characters, their identities were more special. They were also despised by Su Wei. So, they were given identification cards. During their sentence, they had to attend classes every day. Like humans, they received different education. Because they were quite strong, the higher-ups felt that they should be properly reformed and nurtured. They couldn't let their lives be ruined because of a woman. 10 years later, Su Wei was released from prison. Nangong Jin and the rest of the red-haired men had long been released from prison. On the day Su Wei was released from prison, they came to pick up Su Wei. But it was different from before. The way they looked at Su Wei was no longer as pitiful and affectionate as before. Instead, it was very calm. There was no hatred or resentment, as if it was a kind of relief. Su Wei looked at them with disdain. She walked up to them and said, I didn't expect you to be the ones who came to pick me up. Wei Wei, congratulations on regaining your freedom. Live well in the future and don't take other people's things. Nangong Jin said. Su Wei almost scolded him, but she held it in. She didn't have any strength now. Her parents had looked at her with disgust, and those who knew her were all pointing fingers at her. Only this group of red-haired idiots would be so loyal to her. So if she wanted to live well, she really had to rely on them. All right, let's go. Wei Wei, we still have a mission. Today is the day you're released from prison. Chapter 3007. After this, I don't know when we'll be able to meet again. Tang Kuei sat beside Tangwa's bed, his tone a little sad. Let's keep in touch. Okay. Tangwa leaned against the pillow. Although I also want to live for a few more years and be able to spend more time with my brother, I can control many things, but this is the only thing I can't control. After so many years, I can only extend it by 20 years. Unless it was the kind of situation where the original owner lived for a very long time in a world. Then, she would live in this world for a very long time. It's okay, send more emails in the future. When you're free, take some photos of the worlds you've been in and let your little system send them over by email. Okay. Tangkue hugged Tangwa. I'm very lucky to be able to meet a girl like you. I hope that we can meet again in the Space-Time Bureau in a long time. At that time, you won't have to travel endlessly anymore. There's been no news from boss. I sent him many emails before, but I didn't receive any reply. So, for the time being, there's no way to ask him what's going on here. Tangwa didn't care about these things for a long time. She was already very happy now. In each of the subsequent worlds, she lived happily. Even if she wasn't happy, she would find a way to make herself happy. If anyone made her unhappy, she would definitely make them unhappy for the rest of their lives. Time passes too fast, too short. Tangkue let go of Tangwa and stood up. I'll call Sugu in, otherwise he'll find me for no reason to fight. In any case, this was still his sister. That guy's conduct really hadn't changed much. As her brother, couldn't he say a few more words to his sister? When Tangwa left this world, many people were very sad, especially some small countries that regarded her as their savior. When they heard that their god had disappeared, they hugged their heads and cried. When their world was in chaos, when they were being burned and looted, the girl who descended from the sky on a flying tortoise was already the savior in their hearts. When Tangwa left, Sugu was very calm. But the next day, they found Sugu lying in the room, without a sound. He was clearly a very powerful person, and there were not many people in this world who could surpass his martial prowess. According to the world's recalculated lifespan, Sugu could live for at least 500 years. But after Tangwa left, his life seemed to have followed her. Host, if you are sad, you can cry in secret. This is your office. No one dares to come in without your permission. Fortunately, Tangkue had been bound to them for so many years. 111 could still capture that Tangkue was very sad and unhappy. This sadness was not because of Tangwa's death, because they all knew that Tangwa was not really dead. She had gone somewhere else. At this moment, he might have already reached another small world and become another person. Host, look at your younger brother, Tang Tang. He's different. At your wild sister's funeral, he cried so loudly that he could fully express his sadness. You'll get sick if you hold it in, so it's better to let it out. To be honest, he had never seen his host cry before. My way of venting is different. Tangkue sneered. When I'm unhappy, I prefer to tear down the system. It's for people like you who talk too much. 111 damn, he was comforting his host. This heartless guy actually wanted to tear him down every day. 111, who was silent, hurriedly sent a message to little Tongzi. Brother, comfort me. I've been scolded by the host again. He wants to tear me down when he's unhappy. Chapter 3008. Host, I received an email from 111. At this moment, Tangwa did not immediately go to the pocket world. Instead, she went to the bottom of the heavenly spring. She came to look at the lights. As expected, the heavenly spring was even brighter. From afar, it looked like it had lit up the entire galaxy. Compared to before, there was one more light. She could take 2 more steps forward, but she still could not reach the end. If she wanted to reach the end, where there were dots of light like a passageway, she did not know how many more lights she had to light up. She returned to the shore. Wearing a light blue dress, she sat by the water and paddled her feet in the water. She looked at her reflection in the water. This soul was hers, so the appearance of the reflection was naturally hers as well. Let 111 bear with it. Brother is definitely unhappy now. Didn't I just say a few words to him? It's not like I really tore him apart. Brother usually takes care of him when he goes out on missions. Isn't it just a few words to him? Just a few words, and he gets the title of Outstanding System. Isn't he satisfied? System. Okay. I'll reply to him right away. Let's go to the next world. I want to light up the remaining lights. Although I don't know how long it will take, I finally have something to strive for in life. When Tangwa appeared in the next world, 111 happened to receive an email from the system. After reading the email, his entire body was in a bad mood. He fiercely replied to the system. The system looked at the reply. There were only 2 words. We're done with each other. The system felt like it was going to die of laughter. Done with each other? He made it sound like they were friends. What did he mean by done with each other? They were not friends. This 111 was lazy and stupid. He actually had a serial number. He was obviously a good-for-nothing system, but the Space-Time Bureau actually gave him an award year after year. If he had a serial number, he would be the strongest system. What best title? He would not have the chance to be a good-for-nothing system like 111. After ignoring the stingy 111, the system took advantage of the time when Tangwa was adapting to her new body and quickly read the storyline. Dear host, are you used to it? Okay, accept the storyline. Even if I don't accept it now, my chest is about to explode. This body seems to have just been angry. Today was the weekend. The original owner was angry because she had just returned from a banquet. Something had happened at the banquet, and she had no way to vent her anger. At the banquet, her parents were both present. Not only were his parents present, but his parents' cheating partners and their children were also present. Those 2 children were only 1 or 2 years younger than her, but they brought their illegitimate children to the banquet. Her parents even asked her to greet them and play with them. How could she not be angry? Of course, outsiders did not know the identities of these 2 illegitimate children. In the eyes of outsiders, Father Tang and Mother Tang had always maintained a harmonious relationship on the surface. Everyone thought that they were incomparably loving. What was even more unacceptable to her was that during the holidays, their family would gather together with their cheating partners and illegitimate children. The harmonious scene was really unbelievable. What she couldn't accept the most was that her parents wanted her to get along well with the 2 illegitimate children. They said that they were her younger siblings, and as the elder sister, she had to take care of them. As a young girl who was only 15 or 16 years old, if this was the first time she knew about this, she might have already fallen out with him. Not only did she not fall out with them, but she also cooperated with them to maintain the appearance of a happy family of 3. Since she was young, in the eyes of others, she was happy. None of the misfortune had ever visited her. She did not have to worry about food or clothing. She had a chauffeur to take her to and from school. Her parents would definitely attend the parent-teacher conference, no matter how busy they were. She had always been envied and proud of this. She wanted to let everyone know that she lived such a happy life with a loving and loving pair of parents. It was only when she entered junior high school that she realized that all of this was an illusion. She had tried all kinds of unreasonable things, but she still could not restore this family to the way she wanted. Chapter 3009. Seeing that she was making a fuss, the 2 of them even confessed to her that they only got married for the sake of benefits and did not love each other at all. The so-called cheating partner was the one they truly loved. This was what they had discussed from the beginning. For the sake of mutual benefits, they had always maintained harmony in the family. They hoped that she could understand them. They could not be with their true love and could only use this compromise. Wasn't this telling the original owner that her appearance was also a compromise? When she found out that she had a younger brother and sister, she could not accept it. She was even more afraid of being abandoned by her parents and not liking her. So, she compromised and helped them maintain harmony in the family. In the eyes of her classmates, she was blessed and could have anything she wanted. Every time someone said that they envied her, she did not know how to respond. Actually, she did not seem to be that blessed. Every time she saw her parents' so-called true love, she felt very upset. She could even feel the coldness in their eyes when they looked at her, as if they thought she was an eyesore. Perhaps, without her, their 2 illegitimate children could have openly married and given birth to children, right? The 2 illegitimate children were polite to her on the surface, but behind her back, they ignored her and mocked her. Other than that, they would show off in front of her how much her parents liked them, what limited edition gifts they bought for them, and when they took them to play. When she was younger, she had argued with them. Both her parents said that she should give in to her younger brother and sister at her age. After so many years, she already understood that no matter how much trouble she caused, her parents cared about the two illegitimate children the most. She could not lose her parents who had doted on her since she was young, so she could only be more obedient and try not to make them angry or provoke the two illegitimate children. Every time they had a gathering, the two illegitimate children would team up and bring others over to isolate her. At such a young age, no matter how she tried to maintain it, others would see that she was unhappy. She did not care to play with them. Because of this, outsiders would say that the eldest daughter of the Tang family was a cold person with a bad temper. They would also say that it was Father and Mother Tang who spoiled her. Living in such an environment for 3 years made her temper worse and worse, and she would get angry at the slightest thing. Sometimes, she just wanted to attract her parents' attention. However, her parents only thought that they had spoiled her and did not understand why she had a temper. Even in school, her classmates still didn't like her personality. According to the original plot, when she entered high school and changed to a new environment, she would meet someone who could save her. This person could finally bring her out of her parents' shadow. However, she was just a female supporting character in the novel. She was the original female lead in the novel with a very bad character setting. The real female lead was someone else. She was someone who had read this book before. Her name was Lin Man Man. Moreover, Lin Man Man had not finished reading the book. She had only read a small part of it before throwing it away. This was because in the first part of the book, Tang Guo was described as a very pretentious person. The original male lead was called Yin Geng. Ever since he got together with Tang Guo often doubted whether he was not loyal and whether he really liked her. Even if Yin Geng said a few words to other girls, she would be suspicious and lose her temper with Yin Geng and quarrel with him. The truth about Tang Guotang's temper, her unforgiving nature, and her frequent quarrels with Yin Geng would be revealed at the end of the novel. However, Lin Man Man could not persevere to the end. After reading this small part, she decided to give up. She felt that Yin Geng was unworthy. She really did not understand how a person like Tang Guotang could be the female lead. However, when she woke up and transmigrated into a cannon fodder female supporting character in the novel, she absorbed the memories of the cannon fodder female supporting character and did not sympathize with Yin Geng anymore. Lin Man Man's cheat was not strong at this point, so she was naturally targeted very badly. Lin Man Man's pathetic state made Yin Geng, who no longer hated her, pity her. A few times, when the original owner and Lin Man Man were in conflict, Yin Geng unknowingly spoke up for Lin Man Man. She felt that Lin Man Man hadn't done anything wrong. She was going overboard by deliberately picking on her. Given the environment that the original owner of the body grew up in, how could he tolerate such words? He had a huge argument with Yin Geng and left. Even after Yin Geng went to apologize, he did not return to how he was before. Because of the mission, Lin Man Man had to gain Yin Geng's favor. Moreover, she wasn't trying to seduce Yin Geng to be her boyfriend. It was just that she was more active in some activities so that Yin Geng could see that she wasn't the terrible person he used to be and become friends. In the end, Tanggua's reaction was the same as in the book. She even sympathized with Yin Geng a little. In the end, Yin Geng and Tanggua only had a good impression of each other. Before they could start, because of Lin Man Man's mission, their fate was cut off. The original owner of the body hated that Yin Geng didn't reject a girl like Lin Man Man from getting close to him. He even spoke up for Lin Man Man when they were in conflict. This reminded her of the treatment she suffered at home and their parents who each had their true love. After that, they went through a lot of trouble. Lin Man Man joined the school's newspaper team, and the person in charge was Yin Geng. Because he had to organize activities from time to time, Yin Geng often stood her up and did not go to the library with her. When she found out that he was drawing the newspaper with Lin Man Man, chatting and laughing, she couldn't stand it at all. She smashed the chalk box hard and turned to leave. Only then did she break off contact with Yin Geng. Chapter 3011. Even though Yin Gung liked her a little, because of the original owner's eccentricity and violence, as well as interacting with a gentle girl like Lin Man Man, he couldn't stand the original owner's temper and gradually broke it off. After that, Yin Gung was attracted to Lin Man Man's beauty. After that, Lin Man Man started a side mission. It turned out that she had to compete with Tang Hua in some activities and competitions. In short, this side quest basically consisted of a small test, a big test, a normal test, a recital, a speech, and a performance. As long as he surpassed Tang Hua, even if it was just a little bit, he would be able to complete the quest. Lin Man Man had no choice. She couldn't possibly not do the mission, right? And it was all fair competition. She didn't damage Tang Hua's pen or test paper. She just did the mission and didn't do anything else. If she beat Tang Hua, she would be able to get the reward. Side missions were different from the main mission. They could be abandoned. Hence, when she couldn't surpass Tang Hua at the start, Lin Man Man directly gave up the mission. Later on, as she received more and more rewards, she surpassed Tang Hua in many aspects. The only thing that she didn't surpass was Tang Hua's results. In terms of results, the original owner put in a lot of effort. Every parent-teacher conference was the happiest thing for her, because on that day, her parents would agree to her request and attend the parent-teacher conference together. If she didn't do well, she would disappoint them, although she didn't know if they would care. Because of the original owner's personality and Lin Man Man's change, this made Lin Man Man very popular. Everyone felt that she was easy to get along with. She was a gentle and beautiful girl with countless suitors. She could often see Yin Gung arguing with other competitors, which made many girls envious. Lin Man Man still didn't like Yin Gung. No matter where, she rejected Yin Gung and didn't give him any hope. But Yin Gung was already attracted to her. Even if she didn't like him, he would like her silently. And Lin Man Man still remembered what Yin Gung said to the original owner. She showed a look of disgust and ignored him. Later on, many things happened. More and more people hated the original owner. They felt that she was always against Lin Man Man and had bad intentions. At home, her parents thought that she was insensible, spoiled, and did not dote on her younger siblings. Especially after hearing about her reputation in school, he even told her to restrain herself and not to target students who were more outstanding than her for no reason. Her parents had only said these things because Lin Man Man had met her male lead. That male lead couldn't stand the fact that the original host was targeting Lin Man Man, so he gave the family Tang a warning. The male lead was a big shot, but Lin Man Man found out that he was a shining piece of gold. Thereafter, he only doted on Lin Man Man. On the surface, the two illegitimate children treated her kindly and persuaded their parents not to blame her. When their parents turned around, although the two illegitimate sons did not scold her, they would look at her with pride and ridicule, as if asking her what she could do to them. After she went crazy, her parents would think that she was insensible. At this time, her mind had long been warped. Problems had arisen, and her rationality no longer existed. Later on, Lin Man Man's missions were more successful and she received more rewards. During the college entrance examination, she even surpassed the original owner's results. All of the things she had been so proud of were shattered, and her entire person collapsed. In front of the illegitimate children, she could no longer control her temper. Every time, she would fall out with them. This made her parents hate her more and more. In her world, she could no longer find anyone to save her. In the end, she was like a crazy person with no rationality. No, she should be a mad dog. She would bite whoever she saw. Every time she bit someone, she would end up in a miserable state. She lived in a daze. On the other hand, Lin Man Man had found the person she liked and reached the peak of her life. Behind her, there was a group of pursuers that she despised. Her life was very comfortable. Occasionally, when she heard about Tang Hua's experience, she would sigh. Life was a joke. Chapter 30:12. After receiving the memories, Tang Hua went downstairs to look for food. Because of the anger she had suffered at the banquet, the original owner did not eat much. In the end, after the banquet, she was sent back by the chauffeur. Her parents, after parting with her, went to their true love's place. For the sake of convenience, her parents' true love lived in the same place, so that they could live together as a family. So every time they attended a banquet together, they seemed to be on good terms with her parents, so no one suspected anything. Her parents went to their house to visit. When they went in, they were with their true loves. When they came out, they were polite again, as if there was nothing between them and there was no relationship between them. The reason why they still did this was that the elders of the two families were still alive. It was the elders of the two families who had broken up their true love. The elders of the two families held a lot of shares in the company. If they knew what they had done, they probably would not give them the shares. They would probably wait until the elders of the two families were dead and they inherited the shares, then the relationship between them would be broken. In Tangwa's memory, the couple did not seem to get what they wanted. It seemed that the elders of the two families found out that they were secretly with their true love and had a child. They were very angry and did not know what exactly they had done. Because the original owner's memories were muddled, she was not clear about the details. But she knew that the couple's wishful thinking did not succeed. There was a nanny at home who was specially hired by the couple to take care of Tangwa, because they often met with their true love for entertainment, business, and business. In particular, their true love for each other made them appear to be a family, which made them even bolder. They often asked Tangwa out to play. Because Tangwa worked hard in school, they had an excuse that they could not take her with them because she had to study hard. In fact, they knew very well why they did not take her with them. In this world, Tangwa hated the original owner's parents the most. She did not believe that her parents did not know what their illegitimate child was doing behind their backs. At this thought, she stopped eating. Since her parents should have known about their illegitimate children's little tricks, how could the elders of the two families, who were such powerful people, be kept in the dark so well? Could it be that the elders of the two families really didn't know anything? Although they had hidden it well, it was possible that outsiders who did not understand them were unaware of this matter. However, the elders of the two families attached great importance to this matter. Did they really not know? As Tangwa ate, she asked the system to open the chat interface in the group and connected the interface to her phone. She would be able to eat while looking at her phone and chatting with her friends in the group. With the upgrade of the system, it could help her do many things. Seeing Tangwa come out, the people in the group were very happy. They all asked her how she was doing. Usually, they would chat occasionally, but they felt that no amount of chatting was enough. Margaret, as expected, we're not in the magic world again. My stars are about to fall from my anticipation. Campus Bell, when will you come? To use a very popular saying in your country, the flowers are about to wither. Chapter 3013. School Bell, Margaret. Although I want to come to your world too, it's not something I can control. She was different from the people in the Time Bureau. She was sent to random worlds. She couldn't choose where she wanted to go. Margaret, because of your arrival, I've been looking for people who look like the main character for the past few years. I even went to many poor places to see if there were any little boys or girls who fit the role of the main character. Ziyun, did you find any? Margaret, no. Those children shivered in fear when they saw me. They didn't look like the main character at all. I'm so disappointed. Chi Xiao. Ha ha ha, Margaret. Are you trying to make everyone laugh? School Bell, are you still looking for them? Margaret, I even went to the elf tribe. I didn't find any elves who sneaked out to play. The elves are very smart. They won't sneak out to play. Because of my arrival, their chief had a vigilant talk with me. He asked me if I wanted to harm their elves, and he even negotiated many conditions with me. He wanted me to take the benefits and leave. The elves were really weak, and he hoped that I would let them go. It's so sad. Do I look like a bad person? Seeing Margaret's words, the people in the group laughed like crazy. Margaret was so powerful. It would be strange if they weren't afraid. Margaret, I've also been to the magnificent royal palace and the shabby corners of the royal palace, looking for abandoned princes and princesses. However, the princes and princesses in the royal palace have always been receiving a good education. They've never been abandoned at all. I also went everywhere to look for them. It looked strange, especially in some dangerous places. I've saved many people who were in danger, but they aren't the main characters. For this, I even took in a few disciples. They are so talented that I couldn't help it. Tangwa almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This Margaret is really interesting. School bell. I came to a new world this time. My family is more complicated. My parents don't like me very much. Although they are married, they have their own true love. I'm just a combination of them to complete a mission. It should be considered as an explanation to the elders. Tangwa briefly told the story of this world and shared it with everyone. Everyone in the group knew that this was not a dangerous world, so they let out a sigh of relief. While chatting with her friends, she ate 2 bowls of rice, probably because she was extremely hungry. In the end, she told everyone about her initial plans and said goodbye. Today was Saturday, and the sky was already dark. Her parents had already told her that they would not be coming back because they still had a social engagement today. In fact, everyone was well aware of where they had gone. Tomorrow was Sunday. Tangwa planned to visit her grandfather in the morning and her grandfather in the afternoon. Speaking of which, the original owner was afraid of losing her parents. She was also afraid that she would be laughed at and abandoned by her parents. She even hid it from the 2 old men. She carefully analyzed the memories of the original owner of the body and the 2 old men's interactions. At that time, both her grandfathers had asked her if she was doing well in school. Did she suffer any grievances? Of course, the host would say that she was fine and didn't suffer any grievances. Now that she thought about it carefully, Tangwa believed that the 2 old men must have known something. Of course, this was just her guess. She would only know what was going on when she met him tomorrow. Chapter 30:14. Early the next morning, Tangwa called her grandfather and said that she would go to see him in a while. She could tell that Elder Tang was very happy. He even said that he would ask someone to prepare something delicious for her and was waiting for her. As for the original owner's homework, Tangwa finished it in 3 hours after dinner last night. Elder Tang had basically retired, but he still held a large portion of the company's shares. Currently, he bought a piece of land in a village with better air and built a small villa. Because he thought that the road was difficult to walk on, he personally paid for the road to be repaired. He also had a good relationship with the people in the surrounding villages. When he had nothing to do, he would plant some flowers and vegetables. His days were leisurely, and he basically did not care about the outside world. Unless the situation was serious enough, he would not intervene. Of course, the chauffeur sent Tangwa there. After sending Tangwa there, she asked the chauffeur to go back and wait for her notice. As soon as she got out of the car, she saw Elder Tang standing at the entrance of the villa. She quickly walked over and called out, "Grandpa? Hey, you little girl. Come in quickly. The sun is up. Don't stay out here." Elder Tang smiled lovingly. Even though many people said that this granddaughter had a bad temper, he only had one granddaughter. Of course, he still doted on her. But he did not know when it started. Not only did this girl have a strange temper, but she also rarely came over and did not communicate with him. This time, Elder Tang was very surprised that Tangwa came over. He thought that this girl had been led astray by her parents. But now, he saw that this girl was in good spirits. She did not look as bad as others said. Furthermore, his Xiaogua had excellent results. She came in first every year and won awards in other activities. Wasn't she just a little spoiled? Miss Family Tang could not be someone who did not have a temper at all. Tangwa nodded and walked in with her arm around Elder Tang's arm. In her hand, she was holding a gift for him. When Elder Tang saw that it was tea leaves, he quickly ordered someone to make tea. It was rare. It was really rare. His granddaughter was finally a little more sensible. Little Gua has become a big girl. She's more sensible than before. Elder Tang took a sip of the tea and felt that the tea was good. It was really good. He didn't expect his granddaughter to have such good taste. "Why did you suddenly come to visit Grandpa?" "I miss Grandpa." "Ha ha ha, is that so?" Elder Tang stared at Tangwa. Seeing the sincerity on her face, he was stunned for a moment. "All right, since you miss me, come over often. The air here is good, and at noon, you can eat the vegetables that Grandpa personally planted. They're better than the ones sold in the city." Chapter 30:15. Xiaogua, you've suddenly become so sensible. Have you been wronged? Elder Tang asked straightforwardly. He had already asked this question many times. He even told the brat that if she had been wronged or unhappy, she had to tell him. But this stubborn brat refused to say anything. She even said she was fine. The way she tried her best to hide it made it difficult for him to continue asking. It wasn't that he didn't want to get involved in some matters, but things had already gotten to this point. If there was no one to support her, even if he caused a ruckus, it would be useless. He really hoped that this brat could mature a little so that when she grew up, she could stand on her own. It could be said that he was waiting for his only granddaughter to grow up. Once his granddaughter grew up, he would be able to do something and have something to look forward to. After Elder Tang asked this question, he continued to stare at Tanghua. He was afraid that this time, she would swallow all the grievances that were about to come out of her mouth. Yes, this was the reason why Tanghua was here. The original owner of this body found it difficult to say certain things because she couldn't bear to part with her parents' love. She was afraid that they would abandon her and hate her. When the truth was first exposed, her parents warned her not to tell their elders about it. Otherwise, there would be serious consequences. They even said that if they caused a ruckus, they would divorce and be with their true love. The original owner of this body probably couldn't accept this result, so she endured it and kept it a secret. What happened that made my Xiaogua feel wronged? Hurry and tell grandfather. Grandfather will help you get justice. Hearing Elder Tang's words of concern, Tanghua immediately felt all the emotions of the original owner of this body. The grievance that erupted from her chest could no longer be hidden. Her eyes immediately turned red. Seeing this, Elder Tang's heart ached as he quickly comforted her. No matter who bullied Xiaogua, grandfather will teach them a lesson. His words were already very obvious. Tanghua did not waste any time as she organized her thoughts. As if she could no longer keep this secret, she started from the day that the original owner of this body discovered the truth. Halfway through, Elder Tang instructed someone to give Elder Lin, who was Tanghua's grandfather, a phone call. Tanghua didn't stop him. She didn't expect Elder Tang to call Elder Lin over. That's good too. It's time to lay my cards on the table with these two old men. The original owner cared about her parents, but she really didn't care about these two old people who cared more about her. If he had told the old man earlier, even if he met Lin Man later on and was surpassed by her in all sorts of ways, he wouldn't have broken down. In life, she would be surpassed by many people,